All right, everyone, it is 1 o'clock. Thank you so much for joining us on the webinar that is being hosted by YKK. And we also have with us Fashion Girls for Humanity and Made by Us. My name is Jessica Cork. I am Vice President of Community Engagement and Corporate Communications at YKK. And I would like to introduce all of our panelists. We have Kikka Hanazawa, who is CEO of VPL and co-founder of Fashion Girls for Humanity. And Kikka is an investor of various social enterprise businesses, including VPL, which is a women's wear company dedicated to women's education. We also have Miki Higasa, who is founder of Kaleidoscope Consulting, and she is co-founder of Fashion Girls for Humanity. Miki is an expert in brand strategy, marketing, and communications, specializing in the fields of fashion, design, and lifestyle. We have Emile, Khattar, who is founder and executive director of MadeByUS. Emile wanted to empower people who have been stuck at home during the COVID crisis, those people feeling kind of hopeless. He wanted to inspire them to join the fight against COVID-19. So he formed the organization MadeByUS, which is a Virginia nonprofit initiative that is aimed at setting up local networks to create jobs and PPE to support local frontline healthcare workers. And we also have with us Keith Glaser, who is Director of Textile and Plastic Products at YKK U.S.A. And Keith has been working at YKK for the past 21 years in textile and plastic product industry, and he has over 10 years in the hygiene and medical market. So I would like to welcome all of our panelists, and thanks so much for joining us today. So we're going to start with Fashion Girls for Humanity. So Kikka and Miki, could you please tell us about Fashion Girls for Humanity and what your mission and vision is, and how is Fashion Girls for Humanity responding to the current crisis?
Sure. Well, thank you so much, Jessica, for the introduction, and at everyone at YKK for inviting us to be part of this webinar. Fashion Girls for Humanity. Sorry, it's there. Oops. Sorry. Fashion Girls for Humanity was founded in 2011 with two other co-founders in addition to Kikka and myself, Julie Gilhart, Tomoko Ogura. And we each came from different sectors from the fashion industry. So together we're able to bring our respective expertise to accomplish our goals. Oh, sorry, I think I'm showing you the wrong. I don't know how this is happening. I was just showing you guys the deck.
I can pull up my version if you like.
Sure, if that's okay. I don't know what happened. I lost it.
Sure, hold on 1 second.
If we could go to slide 2, the second slide, please.
Okay.
So over the years, I think that what has become pivotal through our achievements is our ability to empower people and communities. Next slide. When I say that we founded Fashion Girls for Humanity in 2011, this was at the wake of the Fukushima disaster, officially known as the Tohoku earthquake and tsunami. We came together simply because we wanted to contribute to the recovery and relief efforts. And we knew that there are many people in the community, in the fashion industry, who were interested in helping as well. After a lot of contemplating and discussion between the four of us, we decided that it would be most effective to raise funds to contribute to a group on the grounds who are actually implementing the physical relief work. So for example, for Fukushima, we donated to Toyo Ito's group called Home for All. And the next slide, please. And for Sandy, we donated to Ways for Water. Initially, we raised money through hosting fundraisers that first started out as designer sales, and then to silent auctions in conjunction with Charity Buzz, where we asked through our community and contacts to donate not just unique items, but experiential activities. Next slide, please. So back in March, when it came to COVID, one of the immediate concerns that drew our attention was the dire shortage of PPE. Next slide. We also learned that there were many people in the industry, designers and factories, which were idle, who wanted to transform their factories to make medical gowns, which seemed to be the most lacking. But this was also when we faced some challenges, the complexity of the whole supply chain. First, there was the pattern of the gowns. Even though we knew that the patterns were very simple, they had strict specifications. It was not only easy to find the correct pattern, so we basically had to reverse engineer them to make them available on our website. Then there was the fabric, which was very specific, but short in supply in the US. And next slide, please. So our current initiative, which centers around PPE, consists of an information hub for everything people need to know about medical gowns. How to make the gowns with tutorials, as well as downloadable patterns for actually not just gowns, but for masks as well. And where to donate the gowns through our partnership with Get PPE, which provides the up-to-date information on which hospitals and institutions throughout the US, which are in most need of which PPE. And together with our partnership with Humans from Home and their MadeByUS initiative, people can buy kits which include pre-cut medical gowns, medical grade fabrics, and everything you need to make a medical gown in one box. Next slide, please. We also created a program called Gowns for Good, Made in America, where we raise funds so that we can commission US-based factories to make medical gowns, which we then donate to the most neediest hospitals and institutions. And I thought, Kikka, maybe you wanted to speak to some of the outreach that we've had, which is starting the next slide.
Sure. So we have so far 150,000 people, over 150,000 people from 164 countries access to our website, learn to make PPE through our tutorial instructions, and they are actually making gowns in the community for their community. Or now what we are trying to do is to do a matchmaking between the facilities that need PPE and those who can provide a skill and make gowns. Would you like me to talk about the community outreach now, or would you like to come back later?
I also have a slide for the US also.
Okay.
You wanted to talk about that.
Sure. So initially we got a contact from Botswana actually to translate into Matric system, which we did. And then we started realizing it's not just the US, but beyond the US, there are a significant need to access to information like what we started providing. In the US, everybody became very creative as to, you know, some community, they use the shower curtains. They bought a Tyvek materials from Home Depot, or bed sheets. That was another creative solution that's in Idaho. So there are many, you know, communities that kind of rose to this challenge. Okay, we can't get PPE, but how can we, you know, make it work for their own communities? It depends on what they do, whether it's a frontline, medical workers, first responders, caretaker for nursing facilities or intellectual disabled facilities. They all came up with a different type of solutions.
Okay, well, thank you very much for sharing that with us. And what I'd like to do now is turn it over to Emile to tell us a bit more about the Made by Us initiative and how you're working together with Fashion Girls for Humanity. Emile, you're on mute.
Hey,
there you go.
Perfect. There we go. That's what I was missing. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So my name is Emile Khattar. I'm the founder of Humans from Home. We're a Virginia nonprofit, and we're in the Made by Us initiative. We're focused on producing PPE for frontline workers. So the need for PPE isn't going away. I think that's really apparent to all of us. And there are tons of people who are stuck at home and need ways to stay busy. You know, we can tell by our interesting TikTok videos. And we're not just dealing with one pandemic, because there's a lot of evidence that COVID has been affecting communities of color more aggressively than other communities. And we're, in the midst of this Black Lives Matter movement. So what can we use all this creativity and passion? How do we use it to support our community? So we'd like to introduce the Made by Us initiative. You see the little shirt folding in the bottom with the heart. We're making isolation gowns right now. We use 72 GSM barricade R wrap, so it's similar to like Tyvek house wrap, but it's very breathable. From Endeavco North America on specialty coating. And the material and the design meet level 1 and 2 AAMI standards, and you can actually put it together using a clothing iron at home or sewing. The process is simple. You sign up to join our network, you receive a set of kits, you construct the gown, and we distribute it to frontline workers. Here are some images of what our kits look like. You can either join our network, and where we send you the kit, you put it together and then we donate it, or you can go ahead, if you're outside of our network, let's say like some of Fashion Girls' clients who are out in the Midwest where we haven't designed a network yet, you can go ahead and purchase it from our website at pretty much the cost that we take to make it, at a kit of 75 or 25 or 5. Here's a little snapshot of our instructions. The hook and loop is courtesy of YKK. And here's some snippets of our impact, and we're just getting started. So here's a quote from Ella, one of our volunteers. Making the isolation gown gave me the ability to help at least a little during this pandemic. So now more than ever is the time for us to stand together and protect this pandemic, because we're stronger when it's made by us. Here's a snapshot of our team. There's my face, and Grace and Reza and Ash and Jillian, and they're just an amazing team. We all work, we're all volunteering our time, and we do this on the side, and it's really something that's given us a lot of happiness. Here's a snapshot of our partners. You'll see YKK and Fashion Girls front and center. And I'd like to thank you guys. And you can check us out on our website, madeby-us.org, or follow us at humans_from_home.
All right, thank you so much to both of you. Such great volunteer efforts that are taking place out there. And I'd like now to turn it over to Keith. And Keith is going to talk to us a little bit about what YKK has been doing with regards to production of PPE, and also a bit some of our donation efforts and how we got involved with Fashion Girls and then Made by Us.
Okay, great, Jessica. Can you hear me okay? All right, thank you. It's been a tremendously positive experience working with the apparel and other industries that have really stepped up to support our frontline workers and our fellow citizens. Before we get into that, I'd just like to provide maybe a little bit of background and perspective on YKK, kind of how we were able to become an essential part of solving some of these challenges. Okay. First, YKK, we're a global fastening manufacturer. We've got factories in probably over 70 different countries, employing well over 46,000 people. We've been manufacturing products like zippers, hook and loop, injection molded plastic parts, webbing, snap and buttons, and other products that have really benefited the hygiene, medical, and the PPE space for decades. Over the years, we've built a dedicated team in sales, marketing, and R&D focused on supporting the initiatives and needs of some of the world's largest medical device manufacturers in the Americas. From a few of the examples listed here, you can see that YKK has fasteners ranging ranging anywhere from tracheotomy tube holders, hospital curtains, blood pressure cuffs, and hospital mattresses. We've been a leading supplier to the PPE market for more than the 21 years that I've been fortunate enough to be with YKK. For example, we produce gas, vapor tight, liquid tight, splash and spray resistant fasteners that are used in containment tents and chemical suits. These are very highly regulated industries that require EPA, NFPA, different CE requirements. But when the pandemic hit, what we saw was a component surge demand from a lot of different industries. One being in the medical mattress sector, and YKK responded to that really by increasing our production in our Macon, Georgia facility to help meet the requirements of our products for those type of applications. And another area where we actually saw an initial demand surge came in the hygiene sector, where our SureFit hook and loop products are used in baby diapers and adult incontinence products. And those are actually some of the most stockpiled items by consumers during the initial stages of the pandemic. But getting back kind of your initial question, Jessica, when this all started, in March, we were inundated and just overwhelmed with the response and the requests from our customers wanting to support. Not only did that come from the medical community, but we had numerous inquiries from our industrial, our automotive, and apparel customers, that were looking for fastening materials so they could begin producing PPE equipment to support our frontline workers. So one of the first things we did was we formed an internal task force focused on the COVID-19 requirements and that demand, as well as breaking into subcommittees to kind of handle the different specific applications. Working with our marketing team, we quickly updated our website here to highlight the YKK components that could be used for PPE items that were in such great demand so people could easily access it. I won't get into specifics at this time, but you can find it on our website by clicking below. Additionally, we developed some media that would highlight our various standard items across all product lines, as well as listing some of our different core competencies and capabilities. Through this process, we actually identified new opportunities for those capabilities and items in the PPE market that we honestly hadn't considered previously. For example, the aluminum wire that's used to produce our zipper bottom stops is now being used as a face mask nose bridge, and the polyester tape for our zippers is now being used as a waist tie on isolation gowns. Now this will be my final slide, but YKK was founded on the cycle of goodness philosophy, which teaches us that no one prospers without rendering benefit to others. So in this spirit, our snap and button team in Kentucky has repaired elastic straps used on N95 masks for their local health department. We've donated masks to local hospitals, donated fasteners for small businesses making gowns, worked with dance troops and Rotary clubs, as you see pictured here on the face shields. But one endeavor that we're really, really excited about is working with these amazing people at Fashion Girls for Humanity and MadeByUS, who are helping empower people at home, to produce PPE to help their local communities. This is really a perfect example of what the cycle of goodness is really all about.
All right, perfect. Thanks so much for sharing that, Keith. And so now I'd like to turn it back over to Fashion Girls for Humanity. And why don't you tell us a bit about your patterns and your trim kits and how people at home might be able to access the resources that you have available to them.
Okay, so I will maybe take you through, I guess, sharing the website. Share screen. There you go. Do you see my website now? The Fashion Girls website?
Yes.
Great. Okay. So on our website, now we are featuring the Humans from Home MadeByUS kit as a featured products. Materials are something that everybody was looking for. This is a perfect opportunity for people to stock as pre-cut materials in case the surge cases in your community. You can just stock them, or you can start making for the hospitals or facilities that might be in need. So if you scroll down, you will see our website in terms of resources, what is PPE, some of the basic information to how to make, who needs them. This is powered by getppe.org. That's another organization that we partner with. They are talking to facilities across the country. They started with a mask. Now they are there's a need for gowns. They let us know who needs those gowns the most, and we're working with them on a daily basis. So here's the downloadable information about the gowns and patterns. Recently, we added a Spanish version, which was really needed as the Latin America, Central America, they all started seeing the surge in terms of COVID cases. We can, we're now servicing those places that we weren't able to before, thanks to YKK. And we have patterns that paper patterns that you can actually purchase, and we'll ship it to your home. And then we have a trim kits. We have trim kits for washable gowns. We have samples, and then we have all the masks, various mask designs that you can download. And if you click on these, it'll actually show you not only the downloadable, which patterns and instruction, but also there are YouTube tutorials under each product. So that's kind of how our website is structured right now. And if you like, I can also go over what each community has been doing, but let me know when it's appropriate.
Sure, please go ahead and let us know that now.
Okay, so some of the examples that are, you saw from before. So we've been making this tutorials as a kind of iteration process with the people who are actually making it. They will come back and say, well, sleeve length is a little too short. The length of the overall length of the gowns is a little too short. So we will make that adjustment. It depends on the materials. Also, we need to make an adjustment. There are many places where, they would experiment with the different materials. If it's no movement, the finish is going to be different. So it was very interesting process. The engagement with the communities are not just U.S. or U.K. We were kind of adjusting and improving our pattern. In this partnership with Humans from Home, what we will be able to do is, this is a good example here. We send the pre-cut materials to Montana. Mary, who was able to provide her resources, and then we did a matchmaking with the facilities in Idaho, Family Medicine and Residency of Idaho. They had 6 facilities, and they needed washable, reusable gowns. So, this is a kind of example that with use of technology, it's possible that we work with people who have skills in sewing machine, and then they can donate, or they can work with the facilities that are in need, even in a different, outside of their own community. Hopefully with Humans from Home, MadeByUS kit, we'll be able to mobilize, more people who are willing to give their time, because it's really therapeutic, right? This act of this sewing itself is something that a lot of people find it, it's a great thing to do when you stay at home. So I'm hoping that it'll continue to do so, because there are still a significant need in different parts of the United States, outside U.S. We don't hear this as much as maybe we did it in early April, but the reality is different, and I hope that we can continue working to solve this global crisis. So I'll get back to you now.
Great, thank you so much, and that's fantastic. It's what I love about the initiative. You know, it's so grassroots and trying to reach every part of the communities that need it, even into the rural areas. So I'd like to hear now from Emile also a little bit more about that topic. So you're really at the forefront of trying to get those volunteers to give their time and energy to this initiative. So how are you finding your volunteers? Like, how are you getting the word out? How are you mobilizing them?
Well, so we found that we have a lot more success when we approach pre-existing organizations. So we started out, we approached a law firm, reached out, they saw the article in, you know, the Scalia Law graduate alumni thing that we were doing this, and they reached out and they wanted to participate. We've reached out, you know, a couple of churches that are in our Richmond community because we're focusing on this Richmond model. So what we did is we said, okay, we're going to find manufacturers in Richmond, we're going to find demand in Richmond, and we're going to try to make this closed circle type model that can kind of function on its own. So we went ahead and within Richmond, which is like near where I live, using a lot of personal, honestly, it was a lot of personal connections. And I think you can get a lot of stuff done, you know, going through, you know, real people's networks. And when you go with the church groups for engagement, for example, it's a lot easier because there's a common goal. And it's a way, I think Kikka mentioned this previously, it's a way for people to kind of participate and feel good, you know, because you know, these organizations like large hospitals and stuff, they can buy PPE from other places as well. You know, there is a shortage, but our goal isn't just addressing the shortage of PPE, right? It's kind of goes to like the soul of, you know, the people stuck at home. Like we're really trying to combat that feeling of helplessness, right? People want to get involved. People want, so what we do, right, is we're giving them the tools. We're saying, here are the tools. And honestly, like when we first got started, it was Kikka and it was the Fashion Girls for Humanity who really gave us the tools. Because I looked online, just like all those like hundreds of thousands of people who are going onto their website, and you know, I downloaded their instructions, and I looked and I was like, these were made for, you know, tailors. Because I'm looking, I did the cutouts, right? I cut out the sleeves and the back straps and the front, and I just looked at it and I was like, oh my God, like I have no idea how these things all go together. Like this is a lot. I thought it would be so simple. You just attach it, right? It's not. It's not simple at all. It's very, it takes like training, right? It's simple for them. It's not simple for me. So I sent them an email, and next thing led to another. They connected me and they reached out, and we started having phone calls. And from there, it's just exploded. They've held our hand through this whole process. None of us have any experience in the fashion or the textile industry or the nonprofit industry. So with supply chain, pricing, just like so many details that we never thought of, we just had a good idea, which was, let's outsource this work to people who are stuck at home, because manufacturers can continue manufacturing, but they can't finish the process, right? Because you can't get a lot of people in a big room to sew these things together at like a high rate. And you don't want to be importing things from different countries because everything was shut down at the time. So the idea was, how do we empower people we solve two problems, right? People who are stuck at home and need work, and you know, the need for PPE. And I think this was the solution we found. And it would have been impossible without, you know, YKK and Fashion Girls, definitely.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I can say firsthand for all of you at home, please check out those videos. I had the opportunity to look at those videos very carefully in some of the editing. I was the same way. If I had just have to, you know, put together those using the patterns, I would have had no idea. So please take a look at the videos, very helpful. So thanks for that. I also, I have a couple more questions for our guests, but anyone who has questions that you would like to ask as well, please use the Q&A section at the bottom of your screen. You can type those up there and we'll get to those in just a minute. Next, what I'd like to go back to Kikka and Miki and ask you, what are some of the challenges that you faced, and how do you think that the fashion industry is going to be changed by this pandemic?
Should I address it from an overall point of view, or?
Sure, yes, yeah, overall would be great, or whatever your perspective is.
So I think that from an overall perspective, it really has given the opportunity for all of us in every sector of the fashion industry to talk to each other and communicate with each other and to rethink about the fashion system and the schedule. I think for designers, it's been very, very grueling to have many, many deliveries, to adhere to the demands of department stores and retailers. So even though you hear in fashion language, you oftentimes hear about the seasons. So aside from the 4 seasons, they were creating many more collections in between. So, they were creating like 8 collections a year, which I think this time is making everyone more introspective and sort of rethink like whether that's all necessary. So I think that's a really good thing. Do you have anything to add, Kikka, for being a fashion company yourself?
Yeah, so one of the things, I don't know if we are supposed to talk at this point or any point, but many small businesses also pivoted in not only making gowns, but also making masks. And in fact, some of the masks that we make are funding the PPE production for the Fashion Girls for Humanity. Obviously this is the first time fashion was really like trying to save people's lives, or trying to protect people who are saving lives. We're never really like life or death type of industry, right? Like if you don't do anything, just people really, it is a necessity, but one of the things that we found through our disaster relief efforts is that clothes are the last thing that's going to get to the disaster zone, because the medicine, water, shelter, those are more important. The food, they're more important than clothes, and the clothes donation often ended up in landfill. So, I think that it really made us think, so what is really important right now? What do people need? And also this made us, there's 2 levels. One is global supply chain is sophisticated and efficient, but it's not really flexible to respond to global pandemics like this, right? Their supply chain is made optimal level to supply what's just needed day to day, not responding to a significant need caused by global pandemics. So it's not very flexible. Yet local supply chain, if you bring that back to community, then it's a lot more dynamic. If fire department needs 20 units, you can supply that in local community. But if you depend solely on very sophisticated, efficient supply chain model where, just a few factories making millions of gowns by one person operating, then it might not really be, it's actually not helpful when we actually all need. So in that sense, I really found this partnership with YKK. First question I asked was like, do you have factories in the United States? Do you have factories in Europe? Do you have factories in those countries? Because if everything is concentrated in one place, I think it's really hard. So this community model, I think, we really appreciate that you understood that it is important. Emile asked the same question: why does YKK have a factory in the United States? So I think it's kind of thinking about community circular model is something that's going to happen in the fashion industry. I think we've been dealing with very highly sophisticated supply chain where the clothes are supplied by somewhere that you don't know where that's made, but it might come back to more local production. That's kind of the feeling I have after this.
Thank you so much for that perspective, Kikka. I'd actually like to ask Keith for his perspective on that. I know one thing that is part of the YKK philosophy is to have plants all over the world in order to serve local customers and local industry. And that's the way that we've been doing business all along, back since our founding in 1934. But I'd love to hear Keith to talk a little bit more about also the amazing job that I think our customers have done in the United States at pivoting some of their industries, to switch completely over in some cases to PPE. Do you have any comments you'd like to make about that, Keith?
Yeah, I mean, it's been amazing the amount of customers that we have. I'd love to list some names, but I know I'd leave some folks out. But we had a tremendous amount of folks in the apparel industry, in the automotive industry. I mean, we've gotten inquiries from roofers, as a matter of fact, and people that have, you know, practically overnight tried to change their manufacturing. You know, some possibly out of necessity, and some, you know, in their spirit of wanting to give back and support everything that's happening here in the States. You know, if you look at it like from the textile community, you know, the response there was incredible. You know, everybody that pivoted to do this, you know, did an amazing job. You know, we started converting manufacturing facilities and building supply chains to help produce some of that desperately needed PPE, what seemed like almost overnight. You know, there's been industry organizations out there. I'll just share this real quick. But, you know, you can see that this list of a lot of the textile industry associations. There was a group, I believe it was NCTO, the IFAI, and INDA that actually put out and conducted a survey. And what it did is they solicited people that were able to produce products, folks that had materials available, and people that were willing to step up, whether it's providing the finished products or supporting their manufacturing to produce PPE, and that was available online quickly so that the community could go out and really find folks that they can work with in this time. You know, and additionally, one of the latest things that's happening is, you know, these groups here, you know, they put together online training, various webinars to support people trying to learn and be involved, but now they're leading a coalition that's working together, you know, with the goal really to help reshore and safeguard our domestic PPE manufacturing here in the United States.
Great, thank you so much for sharing that, Keith. So Emile, I'd like to hear, you know, this is, I guess, the last question, other than if anyone else wants to make any other comments, but I'd like to hear what makes you, you know, hopeful about all of us coming together to try to solve this crisis. And there's a lot of other social issues that we're facing these days. So what inspires you these days?
I think Kikka mentioned something that I think is really key, like early on in this presentation, which was that people are really coming together and making, you know, she mentioned that people are making this out of like all kinds of things just everywhere, right? She mentioned people are making out of shower curtains. And I think for me, what makes me most hopeful that we're going to overcome this pandemic and be even better for it is people's ability to, one, be ingenuitive, you know, coming up with new ideas, working together. The formation of local networks, I think, is like a really beautiful thing. And actually, Miki mentioned, shoot, I'm blanking. Sorry, Miki mentioned that during this like lockdown, a lot of people have had a lot more time to be more introspective. And I think that's what's drawn a lot of attention to the Black Lives Matter movement. And that's what's drawn a lot, because normally, I mean, we're in Richmond. So you see things are going crazy in Richmond right now. And you know, every day we would drive by these monuments, or we would, whatever type of systematic kind of issues we're walking by, you're on the way to work. You know, you don't have time to stop and focus on the people around you. And when the pandemic first broke out, everyone, you know, became internalized. Everyone sucked into their own little world, worried about themselves, how much toilet paper they have, them and their own, right? And then we slowly start seeing people almost get sick of being stuck in their own homes and start reaching out again. Reaching out to support their communities, reaching out to support one another, you know what I mean? And I think that kind of, that is the only way we're gonna come out of this stronger than we were before we went.
All right, fantastic, thank you. That's a great way, I think, to end our discussion today. Do any of our panelists have anything else they would like to add? No? All right, well, great. Well, thank you everyone very much for joining us today. And I would like to encourage you to go to the websites of both of these great organizations, Humans from Home and MadeByUS, and also Fashion Girls for Humanity. You can find all of that information on YKKNorthAmerica.com. We have links to those websites there. So thank you very much for joining us. Goodbye, everyone. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.